Well, today we're speaking about unified in spirit, and that, Edie, you find the most beautiful graphics. That's gorgeous. I may have trouble looking out here when I want to keep looking at that. It's so beautiful. We're continuing this month of October. The Centers for Spiritual Living all over the world have the theme of cherish the human family, and the value for the month is unity. So here we are speaking about being unified in spirit, and that's the human family, it's the earth, it's the animal family, as we heard when we shared with the children this morning about that beloved Bodhi pup. Ernest Holmes says, I know that everything is an incarnation of God, that the living spirit breathes through all. I recognize this spirit and it responds to me. I realize that everything is alive, awake, and aware with spirit. I commune with this divine presence. The spirit within me reaches out and communes with the spirit in everything and everyone I contact. It's within and it's without. There is no space in between where spirit doesn't exist and thrive and breathe in and through all of creation. This is a wonderful thing for us to remember, because you know that the basic makeup of this universe, we see the atoms and the molecules all at the biochemical and chemical level, at the biological level, and these are the basic elements of all living beings, and all living beings are systems. Each of us, all the plants, animals, everything that we see in nature, they're all living systems, and that's the main principle of the unity of all life, because a system has a unity that's not equal to the sum of its parts. For instance, all living beings can be different and simultaneously have something that's in common with everything and everyone else. Example is the rainbow. You have all these distinct colors, and each color of the rainbow can exist by itself. Look around and you'll see we're all wearing all these different colors, a little more fall tones. You're looking rather autumnal, I notice. But all different colors, and each color can stand on its own, can't it? And yet in the color spectrum of the rainbow, all of the colors are organized in a specific way, and they create a unity. So that's what we mean by unity and diversity, diversity and unity. We're all one, and how beautiful that we are just fine individualized expressions of the one life itself. But oh, how much more beautiful we become when we are the rainbow of humanity, and not just humanity, but the rainbow of all beings. I am so clear that we are deeply connected with every atom and molecule in this universe. And you look in the eyes of those puppies and those kittens, and you see you're connected. There's an intelligence that takes place. There's an infinite intelligence that is at work in every expression of life that has been manifest and continues to be manifest and co-created and renewed all the time. This wonderful breath of life, the life of God itself, the life of the divine, that breathes each and every one of us and all the parts of our systems. It's exciting, it's wonderful to have this infinite intelligence at work all the time, everywhere, and how nice it would be if we would remember that it's working in us and through us at all times too. Because we forget that, you know? We have a pretty darn good forgettery. And I like using our forgettery for things like hurts and misunderstandings. Let's use our forgettery for that. Let's use our memory to come back to the realization of knowing who we are, whose we are, how connected we are with all living beings. And that's everything. I remember years ago in my first center in Alamo, California, I was part of an interfaith group, as I've always been in every center. And we had a meeting where it was actually the second meeting I attended, and these people were trying to understand who I was and what I was, because I was the only non-traditional religion and the only woman who had come to their group. But when at the second meeting, when they wanted to know more about what I was about and what our teaching was about, I was explaining to them, and I was talking about everything being connected and all coming from the one life. And one young Catholic priest got so excited. He said, I know. He said, this wall, it looks like it's not alive, but it is. That there's life moving around in there. That there's molecules, and it was so exciting to see that people from many different faith traditions can truly understand that there is an infinite intelligence at work in all life and nothing's dead. Everything is alive. Everything is alive. Now, why don't you and I get more alive? And we do when we recognize that we're not doing anything by ourselves. We are not separate. We are not apart. We are part of that divine life. A very important part of that divine life. How do we remember it? We go to the sacred silence. Go into our sacred silence. I don't know what your forms of meditation or contemplation or restoration may be. Rejuvenation, we could go on and on. I don't know what they are, but I honor them all. I know what works for me. And there are times we teach meditation here, and it might be time to do that again. But when we go into the sacred silence, we find a vision of all sentient beings becoming clearer and more truthful. I am not separate. I'm not apart. I am a part of. I can never, ever be alone. Anyone ever feel like you are? Everyone ever feel lonely? Well, that's a human experience. And don't you remember, we are in the process of awakening humanity to its spiritual magnificence. And we are human. We are a divine having a human experience. And so as we begin to deepen our connection with that living Spirit Almighty within us, and remember that we're part and parcel of this entire life force, that means we are one with and connected with each other in a beautiful way. We're not separate from humans and animals. We're all part of that divine flow. We're each an integral part of the environment. You're not just here taking up space. Everybody is here very much on purpose. Each of us is here to be and to do that which we came here to be and to do. And how do we know what that is but to go diving deeply into that sacred silence and authentically ask the question, here I am. I have these hands, I have this mouth, I have this brain, I have these feet. What am I to do? What's mine to do? That happens to be a talk for next month, but we may as well start now. So you see, mystics have seen through this veil. Mystics of all traditions, whether it's Rumi or whether it is Saint Teresa, anybody who has seen through the veil that of apparent separation, God is here and we're here. No, God is here and here and here and here and here. There is no, as the children say, there is no spot where God is not. Would you like to say that with me? There is no spot where God is not. And that happens to be the truth. Let's remember it. Let's remember it so sweetly. That we come into that recognition that just as the mystics have seen through this veil to the unity, we can do this too. It is in this holy place of unity with the divine that we begin to experience our oneness with all. There's no one to fear out there. There is no other when we're experiencing our unity with all. It's a beautiful practice to walk into a room and see the divinity within all the other people, whether they're aware of it yet or not. And it's none of my business if they're aware of it or not. It's my business to know who they are. It's my business to know who I am. Sri Eknath Easwaran said, through the practice of spiritual disciplines, we can awaken into the highest life possible. We will see God everywhere, serve Him everywhere, worship her everywhere. Beloved, Eknath Iswaran. So as we grow beyond self-interest, that's an important thing to do. In this teaching, we don't kill the ego. We invite the ego to be nice and strong, to have mastered a lot of things here in our world, and then to become transparent so that spirit can shine through it. So when we grow beyond self-interest, which would be what is mine to have, and dive deeply into the divine, what is mine to do, then we begin to see the beloved everywhere, in everything. We see the beloved, and the beloved looks back at us through the eyes of each sentient being that we're connecting with. Then judgments depart. Judgments get in the way. They get in the way for me sometimes. Do they ever get in the way for you? You ever have any judgments, opinions, things like that? Have you noticed other people have them too? No, not yet. Everybody except for you. I see her halo shining. When the judgments depart and we're willing to replace them with gentle blessings, with finding something to appreciate then and there, the energy in our consciousness shifts. Isn't that what we want it to do? We want it to shift into something that feels good, a gentle blessing, an appreciation. And when we do this, then unity becomes a felt reality. It's not just a lovely bunch of words. My teacher used to refer to LBOWs, lovely bunches of words. We want to go far beyond the words into the feeling of it, into the awareness, into the knowledge of it, the acceptance of it. Imagine beholding each one you encounter as the divine, as we were singing earlier. And I namaste to you. So think, well, look at this, look around the sanctuary right now, just for a moment, and open up your heart and see the divine looking back at you. The divine is yawning back at you. That's all right. The more open the mouth, the more you can see God in there. These are divine beings. Now, would you be willing to do that on the train? Look around and see the divine beings looking back at you. Whether they're looking at you or not doesn't matter. There's a shift in energy that takes place when we're willing to elevate our own opinion and stop the judgments. Think of some of the significant people in your life right now. Do you have any judgments about them? Apparently one or two. Okay, are you willing to consider the possibility of dropping some of those judgments? Okay, I like that. We've got start with willingness. Can you, in your mind right now, see them in their spiritual magnificence? That's the next step. Do you see how powerful you are? You can make a difference, first of all, in your own consciousness. It feels so much better when you're not feeling at odds with another person. See, divine energy underlies and infuses everything, all forms of life. Your very life, your very body, your mind and your spirit, and each person that you encounter, divine energy is there. Every place you find yourself is filled with divine energy. Now I know we go to different places and we can feel a different energy, right? Sometimes you walk into a room and it's go, and other times you go, ah. Do you know that you don't have to be negatively affected by an energy that you walk into, but that you, on the other hand, powerful being that you are, can positively affect and change the energy, the very energy in that very room? That's a beautiful spiritual practice. It makes you feel better, and it actually elevates the energy in the room. It's been proven that our thought, our feeling, our belief impacts all those molecules and makes a difference. You can change the shape of water. Why not change the feeling in the room? You can do it by remembering that you're all one, that there's really no difference except the beautiful difference in expression. But underlying, we're all the same. We are unified in spirit. That energy responds to our thoughts and to our beliefs. So let's focus energetically. That's Diane Cedars' word. She signs everything energetically, Diane. Let's focus energetically on lifting and illumining all of life wherever we are, wherever we go. Animal communication is a real thing. Do you know, I'm sure many of you who live with beloved fur creatures or feather creatures or whatever, you've experienced things like, they know when you're on your way home, right? You can look in their eyes, they look at you. Miss Yoga doesn't ever bother to bark unless maybe someone comes through the door or she encounters a dog. Other than that, she doesn't need to ask me for anything. With her voice, she looks at me. There's so much communicated through the eyes. And if I don't get it right away, she goes like, well, she's a teenager now. She'll be 18 next month. I know. Alive and ageless. That's what we do in our house. You communicate with all of these precious beings. And they with us. And it's a rich, beautiful experience. It makes me feel humble. And it makes me feel grateful. And it makes me feel exalted that we have this divine unity. And that we're environmentally connected. When was the last time you hugged a tree? Oh, I know, I'm from California. Or ran through these wonderful crispy leaves. They're getting a little wet today, but isn't it wonderful? I still love running through dry leaves. Don't you? If you haven't done it for a while, would you think about it? It feels so good to feel ourselves so connected with the environment itself. And then about human conversation. Let's keep our conversations in heaven. Let's look at each other and see what's beautiful there and remark on it to one another. Don't keep that to yourself. Let's tell each other how divine we are and how humanly beautiful we are. So, with an open heart and a mindful intention to seek God in and through everything and everyone, we really know our oneness with all life. And you know what happens then as a community? When we do this individual, wonderful, deep dive in connection with the One, is that we as a spiritual community become something very special and very powerful. I read this some time ago and love it. It is possible that the next Buddha will not take the form of an individual. The next Buddha may take the form of a community practicing and understanding and loving kindness, a community practicing mindful living. This may be the most important thing we can do for the survival of the earth, says Thich Nhat Hanh, beautiful Vietnamese monk. Will you say with me, I'm alive with spirit. I celebrate the life within all beings. We are unified in spirit. And so, my beloveds, beginneth our lesson. You know the words.